The Crusades brought more than just war back to Europe. They brought new tastes, new fabrics, new colors. Melons, lemons, muslin, damask, cotton, silk from Damascus. When the Crusaders stopped coming home from the Levant, the Venetians stepped in to satisfy the demand for these luxuries. Then, in the 16th century, England entered the stage. In 1580, the English signed a treaty with the Ottoman Empire. Soon after, they formed the Levant Company, and for their main base, they chose one city, Aleppo. Aleppo stood at the crossroads of great caravan routes from India, Persia, Basra, and Baghdad. Earthquakes, Mongol invasions, Timur's armies. The city was destroyed again and again, but every time it rose back. Because trade was its lifeblood, English merchants established themselves in a khan half a mile west of the citadel. Within a generation, they had overtaken the Venetians and the French. By the early 1600s, 50 English factors were trading in Aleppo. What did they trade? From England came lead, tin, cloth from Essex and Gloucestershire, and kerseys from Hampshire and Yorkshire. From the east came cinnamon, cloves, cotton, silks, Indian shawls, pearls, ivory, even rhubarb from China. All these goods landed at the port of Scanderoon, later Alexandretta, and were carried by camel nearly 100 miles inland to Aleppo. But life was far from easy. Merchants often went 2 years without news from England. Ships carrying mail were sunk by corsairs. Relations with the local Turks were limited. The Turks treated them with arrogant tolerance. Insults in the streets were common. Some factors adopted native clothing to be less conspicuous. Others stubbornly kept their wigs, beaver hats, and swords. A few looked ridiculous, wearing a long Turkish robe with a hat and wig. As one writer complained, the merest Mohammedan thinks himself above any Christian. Marriage was forbidden. The company in London saw women and children as an unwarranted burden. Some factors formed liaisons with local women, but no Frank could marry a Muslim lady on pain of death. Most remained bachelors. So what did they do for pleasure? They hunted. Many kept their own horses, greyhounds, and hawks. In winter, they went hunting twice a week. In summer, they played cricket at a spot called Greenplatt for miles outside the city. They built a small theatre. French and Italian comedies were performed, even operas. Card parties and gambling filled many evenings. There was a library, by the end of the 17th century, 228 volumes. Henry Maundrell, the English chaplain in Aleppo, wrote to a friend at Oxford, "Our delights are among ourselves. Here being more than 40 of us, we never want a most friendly and pleasant conversation. Our way of life resembles, in some measure, the academical. We live in separate squares, shut up every night after the manner of colleges." But the greatest terror in Aleppo was the plague. In the summer of 1669 alone, 150,000 inhabitants perished. 1/4 of the English factory died with them. When plague broke out, Europeans had two choices: flee into the countryside, one favorite refuge was the mountains overlooking Scanderoon, or shut themselves inside their houses for months. With no contact with the stricken city, food would be drawn up in a basket, carefully fumigated and purified before being eaten. Water was delivered through a wooden spout let into the floor, kept locked, opened only in the presence of a European. Yet many survived. Some amassed fortunes large enough to return to England as country gentlemen or prosperous Londoners. Sir Paul Pindar, for example. He served as consul in Aleppo from 1609 to 1611, then as ambassador in Constantinople. When he returned to London in 1623, he donated nearly £20,000 toward the repair of old St. Paul's Cathedral. His mansion stood at 169 Bishopsgate Street without. Today, its wooden front is preserved at the Victoria and Albert Museum. But by the 18th century, trade was declining. French cloth was cheaper and better. The East India Company began sending larger ships directly to the Persian Gulf. The overland route through Aleppo was threatened. By 1725, only 30 English factors remained. Within 60 years, all but 2 had gone. In 1791, the Levant Company closed its factory in Aleppo. In 1822, a devastating earthquake destroyed 2/3 of the city's houses and killed 1/3 of its inhabitants. The only Englishman left in Aleppo at that time was Consul John Barker. On May 19, 1825, the authority of the Levant Company passed to the Crown. In the words of the company's historian, the great instrument which the enterprise of Tudor England had forged to traffic with the dominions of the Grand Sania ceased to be. But today, in the stone streets of Aleppo, in those khans, under the shadow of that citadel, the quiet traces of those English merchants still remain. Letters from England took months to arrive, but often no reply ever came. A journey through the dusty pages of history. If you enjoyed this, like and subscribe. Join us next time as we uncover another forgotten colony.